Good morning and welcome back to Venture Daily. Yesterday, automakers, tech giants, and others pushed back against Trump's proposed 25% chip tariff. It's reported that the U.S. strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities in Fordow and Natanz actually only set Iran's nuclear program back about 3 to 6 months. Sam Altman leaks emails between him and IOIO founder Jason Rugolo ahead of their legal battle over OpenAI's I.O. And we got a special funding announcement from a company creating new digital minds. I'm Jackson Fordyce. It's Wednesday, June 25th. Let's get you smarter before your first meeting. The U.S. airstrikes on Iran may not have been what Trump claimed. A preliminary intelligence assessment from the Defense Intelligence Agency says Iran's nuclear program was only set back by 6 months, far from obliterated despite what President Trump's public declarations were. And the White House is pushing back hard. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the DIA leak the work of a low-level loser and insisted the 30,000-pound bombs caused total obliteration. This is a ex-post from her. It says, fake news, CNN strikes again, and then, claims the low-level loser in the intelligence community has leaked this information. And Trump's defense secretary, Pete Hegseth, backed him by saying this: "I've seen it all the bombs hit perfectly." This is another post from Trump on Truth Social. So, who's telling the truth about the bombings, and did the mission actually change anything? Well, I guess we'll find out. Stay tuned and we'll get more information, but here's another post from Trump. It says, fake news CNN together with the failing New York Times have teamed up in an attempt to demean one of the most successful military strikes in history. The nuclear sites in Iran are both completely destroyed. Both the Times and CNN are getting slammed by the public. But before we get into anything else, I want to tell you about our sponsor, Public.com. If you take investing seriously, you need to know about Public.com. That's where you can invest in everything: stocks, options, bonds, and crypto. You can even earn some of the highest yields in the industry, like the 7% or higher yield. You can lock in with a bond account. Public is a FINRA-registered SIPC insured platform that takes your investments as seriously as you do. Fund your account in 5 minutes or less at public.com/venture and get up to $10,000 when you transfer your old portfolio. Paid for by Public Investing. Full disclosures in the podcast description. Go to public.com/venture. That is our link. Click the link. We love the app. It's great. It's amazing. And using that link really, really helps us grow as a podcast so we can tell more stories like this and spend more and more time with you guys, our audience. Let's hop into our first story this morning. Back in April, Trump proposed a 25% tariff on imported semiconductors. That proposal has now seen intense blowback across the economy from car makers, chip giants, boat manufacturers, and others. Tesla, GM, Ford, Intel, and even the National Marine Manufacturers Association have all weighed in with concerns, and the worry is clear. Tariffs could snarl supply chains and jack up costs. A review of 150 plus public comments to the Commerce Department shows the wide industry agreement. Sure, let's reshore chip making, but sweeping tariffs risk doing more harm than good. Even TSMC, who's investing $165 billion to build fabs in Arizona, warned tariffs could delay their U.S. expansion and raise prices on 5G, AI, and autonomous tech. And so the question now is, can the U.S. actually win the AI arms race while taxing chips that power it? And so to answer that question, I asked our friend Rob Biederman.
Great. I'm Rob Biederman. I'm the managing partner of Asymmetric Capital Partners, and I'm based in New York City.
For my first question to Rob, are Trump's proposed semiconductor tariffs a genuine push for reshoring or a political gambit with massive economic collateral?
Look, I think it comes in the midst of what is really America building its semiconductor ecosystem from the ground up. The first step in that process was kind of onshoring the fabrication and the manufacturing facilities for raw chips. And that led to projects like the Intel chip factory in Ohio and TSMC's semiconductor fab in Arizona. We're investors in a business called Eagle Electronics, and we see that very much as the next stage in kind of the semiconductor supply chain, which is sort of taking the raw chips, turning them into modules and components that can allow for connectivity. That's, obviously what Eagle does. It's an exciting time. Like if you think about, real manufacturing construction, spending by type, forever, if you go back to early 2000s, you were dealing with, 10 max 25 billion of US dollars. And we've seen a, explosion of that since 2021, 2022. We're now at kind of 100 billion or more. So look, I think we are at the place as a country where we could really own the supply chain. And it's hard for me to opine on the public policy side, but I think this is definitely the path forward for America is very much kind of vertical integration in this way.
Yeah, I think Rob put it well. This is the time that we can actually own the supply chain. But I'm still curious. Can we actually own the supply chain? Do people actually want to be doing this work, being in these factories for grueling hours and long time? But maybe that's where robotics comes into play. But I was also curious, like, when will that timeline actually happen? Is that this year? Is that later on in the next couple of years? Is it before 2030? Later than 2030? And so for my next question for Rob, I asked him, can U.S. manufacturing even scale fast enough to replace foreign chip supply and without breaking any key industries in the process?
Look, I would never bet against the United States, but I think it's very much a phased process. So it is clear that as long as we have, foreign chips in our supply chain, even if we're on very good terms with those countries, we'll always have a supply chain that at minimum, and I think this would have been true if Harris had won or Trump had won, was a very long dated supply chain. So forgetting political enemies, if we're making things in Southeast Asia and bringing them to the United States, just injects a tremendous amount of volatility in supply chains. And as we saw in the global pandemic, and you can imagine as, potentially certain geopolitical events create uncertainty around shipping, I think it's kind of imperative, given how deeply embedded anything that touches chips are, that we need to get there as a country. Could we do it today? For sure, no. But I think the U.S., I see it, at least, again, as not a, foreign policy expert, but just a small venture capitalist. We have to be completely off kind of the global supply chain eventually for these things.
Yeah, so Rob kind of answered my question, can we do this anytime soon? Probably not. And he kind of said it in a good way too, like no matter who won the political election, whether it was Kamala or Donald Trump, because we already have supply chain constraints. So it was going to be addressed no matter who won the election. And so for my last question to Rob, I asked him, if the goal is tech independence, why risk derailing AI, EVs, and advanced defense systems by taxing the very inputs that they require?
I think we've seen throughout anything related to the tariff strategy, there's often kind of a story and then a story behind the story. So surely, as somebody who works in the tech field, I want to see as many chips as possible coming into the United States on the best possible terms, whether they're either fabricated domestically or they come from abroad. But I think it's a long story, and we're certainly going to continue to mature our domestic supply chain, and hopefully foreign can be a part of that as long as it's required.
Thank you to Rob Biederman for being on the show today. All right, moving to our next story here. On Sunday, a guy named Max Weinbach noticed that the OpenAI and Johnny Ive announcement have been scrubbed from OpenAI's website. This is what Max posted. Wait, OpenAI did actually scrub everything about Johnny Ives and Sam Altman off the site on YouTube. It's just completely gone. YouTube video private, blog post removed. Everything has gone weird. And so when you click to learn more about it, this is what you get. You get a 404 error. So it turns out hardware startup IYO is suing OpenAI CEO Sam Altman and Johnny Ive for trademark infringement, claiming OpenAI's new AI hardware venture, IO, is confusingly similar and threatens to erase their brand. And so Sam Altman responded to this and said, this is what IYO, the founder Jason, looks like, and the wording, a new AI device that you can talk to, eerily similar to what it looks like IO, Sam Altman and Johnny Ive's startup's going to be. But this is what Sam tweeted posted last night. Jason Rogolo had been hoping we would invest in or acquire his company, IYO, and was quite persistent in his efforts. We passed and were clear along the way. Now he is suing OpenAI over the name. This is silly, disappointing, and wrong. And so Sam actually posted screenshots of the emails between him and Jason back in March of 2025 this year. So this is Jason emailing Sam to be an investor in IYO. So Sam responds and says, thanks, but working on something competitive, so we'll respectfully pass. And then in parentheses, he wrote, called IO, ... Here's more emails. So this is Jason says, want to work together? I don't want to go up against you, man. I am just a zealot in making the AI augmented human a real thing and making it good for humanity. And he, tries to sell to Sam. And so Sam responds, let me chat with Johnny Ive. He is the one driving this. So he's being clear in these emails in March that, hey, we're working on this. It's called IO. Johnny's behind it, right? So it's just more and more and more emails. Jason responds saying, hey, dude, I saw the launch. Like, any way that we can work together still, like, bring us in, etc. But Jason, he posts, we're not going to let Sam and Johnny steal our name, which is a very different tone and vibe from what we're seeing in the emails that Jason was sending Sam. And so, a judge is now sided, or at least temporarily, with IYO, granting a restraining order that forced OpenAI to pull its original blog post and announcing the IO project. To end the conversation, Sam said, all that said, I wish Jason and his team the best building great products. The world certainly needs more of that and less lawsuits. And for our next story today, we have a funding announcement from Delphi, a company that creates AI digital minds to help people scale communication, just raised $16 million in Series A funding. For a deeper dive into the story to learn more about what I.O. is, I spoke with their founder, Dara.
Thanks, Jackson. My name is Dara. I'm the co-founder of Delphi. And at Delphi, we allow people to create a digital version of their mind to scale their expertise. Very much thinking about it like a new form of media. You can write a blog post and reach millions of people, but now you have something that can reach millions of people, and it's interactive, and it can actually talk to them.
Yeah, so the tech and the story sound cool, but like, who is this product for? That's why I asked Dara.
I mean, we're pretty horizontal. We have coaches using Delphi to scale their coaching practice, authors using to make their books available in this interactive conversational way. And there's studies that show the best way to learn something is actually through active conversation. We have CEOs using it to scale themselves internally for their teams or externally for customers. We have people monetizing their expertise, making 7 figures in revenue. And we actually have people also using this as a replacement of their LinkedIn profile or resume or email, where it's, you want to pick my brain? Talk to my Delphi. And it's going to let me know if we should actually hop on a call.
In the future, you can apply with your Delphi. Oh, just check out my Delphi. Upload your Delphi here. And it's funny, at the end of the conversation, Dara mentioned that he could use his Delphi, and you can actually use it. It's delphi.ai/Dara, D-A-R-A. There'll be a link right here that you can check that out. It's actually pretty fun to play with. And so for my next question for Dara, I asked him, Delphi is reframing expertise as something you can scale, not just publish. How does this shift the way companies should think about hiring and retaining top talent in the AI era?
In a world where pretty much everything is commoditized, the mind is the ultimate moat. It's really all you have. It's the most unique thing that you have. And up until now, there's a cap to which you can express that mind, to which you can have impact. And so your company is also your moat, and the people you hire is your moat, and their mind and their way of thinking things are moats. And so we also have people thinking about this in a way where obviously talent doesn't stay forever, and that's tribal knowledge that they leave with, but potentially you could license their mind and keep their mind so that you can keep that tribal knowledge in the business to help mentor new hires who need to learn those tactics.
License their mind for HR purposes. Imagine how insane that would be. You have one of your top talents, they leave to go to someone larger like Meta or even a different startup, but you really needed their expertise and their mind to help train the newer generation of employees, and so you just tap into their mind. Dara's leaving the company. We need someone like Dara. You take Dara's Delphi and you provide it to the new employees so they can learn from one of the best people at the company. It's pretty insane. And so for my next question, kind of, leading into that, I asked him, is it in a world overwhelmed by static content, Delphi is betting on adaptive, identity verified conversation. Are we entering a new category beyond social media and search?
I think social media, the promise was two-way connection, but then the algorithms became optimized for attention extraction and endless scrolling where we're no longer a part of the conversation. And I think 2 trends that we see is, one, the decline of attention spans. People aren't reading books or finishing courses because of TikTok and Reels, so there's a need for a more immediate gratification way of learning. And then you see with the history of technology, whenever there is an era of abundance where information is ubiquitous, what happens is people actually crave curation. That's why the creator economy came after the dot-com era. And right now we're in an era of abundance with AI. And eventually the novelty and the honeymoon phase will wear off, and we want curation and trust.
We are in the era of abundance in artificial intelligence, and so we need curation. It's basically what Dara is saying, and I fully agree with him. There's so many times when there's a new fun thing to play with AI, right? With like the Studio Ghibli pictures, and then everyone just jumps onto it. And it's cool for a second, and then it gets really, really old really, really fast. Now if you see a Studio Ghibli, X profile picture, it's kind of cringe. Adding that level of precision and detail to a product is going to be extremely important moving forward in the age of artificial intelligence. And so my last question for Dara, I asked him, this is all great, this is all cool, but like, what is the long-term vision of Delphi? What can we expect in the future, the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now from Delphi?
Yeah, long-term, I see Delphi as a modern-day Library of Alexandria. It's going to have the legacy of every single human being on the planet. So not only you can find any human in the world based on whatever you're looking for, whether it's learning or co-founding or hiring, some of the best relationships happen not because of superficial things like where you've worked, but because of similarity of thought and value. But also 500 years from now, maybe we evolve to a new species. Delphi is where humanity is preserved and remain.
Delphi is where humanity is preserved and remains. Dara, we appreciate you coming on the show, man. Congratulations on the funding. We hope to see you sometime in the near future. All right, that is all for Venture Daily today. Thank you so much for joining us. I hoped we helped you get a little bit smarter today, and thank you to Content Stack for letting us film here at your space in Austin, Texas. If you like today's show, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or X, leave us a like, a comment, or review, and throw us a 5-star rating if you think we earned it. And as always, I'll see you tomorrow morning at Venture Daily.